Mark Zuckerberg spent $43 million on security, but gives millions to defund police groups. So Zuckerberg doesn't practice what he preaches when it comes to public safety. The tech tycoon's company has spent more than $40 million on Zuckerberg's personal security over the past 3 years, while at the same time, his family run foundation has donated millions of dollars to groups that want to defund or even abolish the police. Since 2020, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, CZI, has donated $3 million to Policy Link, the organization behind defundpolice.org, according to investigative reporter Li Feng. The anti-cop group boasts on its website that it funds efforts to diminish the role of policing in communities and empower alternative visions for public safety, though it fails to list what those substitutes may be. CZI, which Zuckerberg founded with wife Priscilla Chan, has also donated more than $2.5 million to Solidaire, Thing reported, which seeks to do away with policing. Solidaire reported in a June 2022 overview of its Defund the Police for Funders program that it proudly led the anti-police terror project, which claims to have played a significant role in stripping the Oakland Police Department's budget of $18 million. The Movement for Black Lives, a coalition of 150 activist groups funded by Solidaire, said in a press release that the police do not keep us safe and they do not prevent nor stop crime. Pouring money into the system of policing only threatens the very lives they're purported to protect, it added. That concept apparently stops at CZI's door. The foundation provides annual funds to a community group tied to the Redwood City Police Department, the local law enforcement agency that patrols both Meta's headquarters in Menlo Park, California, and CZI's offices in Redwood City, California, Feng wrote on his Substack on Friday. And representatives for Meta and CZI did not immediately respond to the post request for comment. Now, isn't that kind of funny when you really think about it, right? So basically, they're willing to fund groups to defund the police all over the world, in a sense, right? But when it comes to like where their businesses are located, yeah, let's give some more money to those cops that are looking over our stuff because we actually want to be protected. Go figure. Meta, meanwhile, increased its pre-tax spending on Zuckerberg security to $14 million in 2023, up from $10 million over the last several years, according to a company filing released in February. Zuckerberg, who has thrown himself into becoming a jiu-jitsu master, is allowed to use the money to pay for additional personnel, equipment, services, residential improvement, and other safety-related needs. The documents noted such a costly security detail was necessary due to the 39-year-old's position and importance to Meta and the fact that he has requested to only receive $1 in annual salary and does not receive any bonus payments, equity awards, or other incentive compensation. But when you really think about it, he could technically just use this 14. Actually, no. What was the like 14 million in 20? Yeah, 14 million on the security. All right, so basically he could just use that pretty much as like an income for him and just basically spend it on whatever he wants to spend, and basically no one could really say anything. Which, by the way, I always think is funny, where like the CEOs of these owners of these massive corporations are like, "Oh yes, I'm going to just pay myself $1 salary." Woo, right? Getting some brownie points in the public news cycle. But when you really think about it, it gets a massive security fund that you can pretty much spend whatever, right? Like there's not really any restrictions on it. Then also, by the way, you own massive amounts of stock of the company itself too. So you could technically just sell a certain amount of stock once and literally never sell stock ever again and never make an income ever again and still be filthy, filthy, filthy rich. By the way, you have your little organization foundation thing that you have complete control over as to how it's spent as well. in terms of like what the money's spent on that. So I just think it's funny. So it wouldn't be the first time Zuckerberg has been seemingly hypocritical when it comes to protecting his family. Earlier this week, the Meta boss sparked outrage for posting a photo to Instagram where he concealed his two eldest daughters' faces with emojis. Zuckerberg, who has been touting the launch of his Twitter killer app, Threads, was seen in the photo wearing a US flag themed cowboy hat while standing next to Chan, who is holding their infant daughter, Aurelia, in her hands. While 4-month-old Aurelia's face is not covered, her older sisters, Maxima 7 and August 5th, have their faces obscured. And Instagram users criticize Zuckerberg for insisting on privacy for his children, even as his company has been accused of monetizing user data that has led to personal information becoming public. Even Zuck doesn't trust his platforms to put his kids' faces up, one Instagram user commented, and another Instagram user wrote, "Take notes, the founder of Meta doesn't want his daughter's faces posted to social media." Not only that, I'm pretty certain in an interview, Zuckerberg basically said that when it comes to like if his like a laptop or computer in his home or whatever, if it has a webcam, he tapes it, right? So he is extremely paranoid about his privacy, which is funny because he runs pretty much all of the companies that are super super horrible when it comes to your privacy. Like he just steals all of your private data. It's just insane. Let's see. I live in a small town where I am confident the local police force clearly does prevent crime, but just in case their 3.5 to 4.25 minute response time is not fast enough, I have the means to handle a life threatening situation in 3.5 to 4.25 seconds. And thanks to SCOTUS, so do millions of law abiding US citizens. That also tamps down crime. Yeah. Now, what I find interesting about this whole thing, right? Like, I just think it's a little bit funny that he funds organizations that defund police, but he's willing to fund in the tune of multiple millions of dollars to basically ensure that the county that his businesses are actually located in, they're protected, right? Like, it's kind of like it's sad in a way where like you have a super wealthy individual that like basically wants to isolate his company and himself from the world. He wants to protect his family and his business from the world and basically let everything else burn or purposely make everything else burn. It's like to me, if I had the type of money that Zuckerberg does, one, I wouldn't bother doing the whole like funding these weird organizations. Like to me, I'm a pretty lazy guy. I'd rather just like lay in a hammock and like drink, I don't know, orange juice or something. Like these like rich guys, these rich owners of these companies, they dedicate so much like mental bandwidth and like resources to things that like basically just don't even make sense, right? Like how does it make sense to fund organizations that defund police through the nation basically, then also you spend money like potentially like 10 times the amount to make it so that in your area it's more secure, but then also your private security, which pretty much is just like a piggy bank for yourself, is like super high. Like it's basically he wants everyone else to not be able to protect themselves and he wants all the protection for himself. And it's just like a disgusting thing. Like this is one of the reasons why Zuckerberg, I think, is one of the most disliked CEOs in the country. Just like what he does, because basically it's kind of like he comes off like this, and it probably is the case where he just does not care about other human beings, basically like at all.